Blizzard is finally working on Sombra changes that should hit the PTR very soon, probably this week. But I think those changes could actually make her way too powerful. So there's a bit of backstory. Some of the changes to Sombra actually went to the live version of the game on PC, and Blizzard quickly removed them. But they did say that some of the changes that did go live are going to be tweaked a little bit before they hit PTR. So some of the stuff that we'll be talking about isn't going to be exactly the same, but it should be pretty correct, especially since it seems like largely like the goal of their changes are pretty clear in what they've already like laid out in the forums. So here are the changes. They're pretty big, and a lot of them are going to change exactly, or change pretty much how you would play Sombra versus what you do now. So the big one is Sombra no longer gains ultimate charge from health packs, which is a pretty big one because that's always been sort of her thing. That's why people have always said like Sombra's basically a support. The other thing is she has a pretty big bullet spread, and that's going to be reduced by 10%. Her hacking cast time or speed is going to be increased a bit. There's actual numbers on the forum post. You can go read those, but it's a small amount, but it is already a fast cast, so it makes sense. Also, the other big one is hack will actually disable more abilities than before. So it'll actually disable what they say is any ability that requires a button press. So like Genji and Hanzo's wall climb, Pharah's hover jets, Mercy's angelic descent, which is basically her spacebar float. And also it will disable any song that Lucio is on. So if you're on your healing song, not only will it disable you from switching to speed, it will just disable the song, so you just won't be healing. Like Lucio will actually be like kind of a little bit more countered. I wouldn't say hard countered maybe, but definitely more countered to an EMP ultimate or just a hack from Sombra. But again, Lucio's songs aren't the strongest, so I guess it sort of makes sense, but it's interesting how it doesn't seem to disable Mercy's staff, but we'll see. I feel like there's going to be a couple things we don't know that it disables until we get onto the PTR, because they haven't really explained everything, because technically you do press a button to heal on Mercy, but that would be a big thing to get rid of her staff, so I don't know. Especially since it already gets rid of like her Guardian Angel, which is her ability to fly to people. So that's the big changes. So basically, like the whole playstyle Sombra in live is put a health pack or hack a health pack, put a translocator on it, go behind the enemy team somewhere basically safe, because she's like the safe flanker, and decloak from like invisibility and just poke basically, or just shoot at something. I mean, you can try to get a kill if you can aim well enough, but usually you're going to be shooting something that you can just get your ult and then go back, get your health pack. That'll give you even more ult charge, because you're probably going to get hit a little bit when you're back there, because people probably turn around. And then you start a fight with like EMP, and EMP is basically just an AoE hack, and it's very strong, especially if people act on it. So if you have like it's kind of like a graviton surge from the Zarya, you can definitely combo with it, but it's definitely a hard ultimate to use, and it's always been a little bit wonky because Sombra is a DPS hero, an offense hero, so it's been hard to sort of pull off, because it's not if you compare it to like a soldier ult, tactical visor, you can get a lot done sort of by yourself. You don't need to rely on that many people. Obviously at higher levels of play you need to have a little bit more teamwork happening to actually get a good visor off, but with Sombra, EMP can be hard to pull off because people don't really act on it. You can do it, but I think some of the balance towards that, and I think Blizzard knew this before they had implemented EMP originally, is that like, hey, it's going to charge really fast, so she can do it a lot, and hopefully people will eventually, actually do something with it. But it definitely takes a lot of communication, or at least just people knowing what to do when EMP goes off, which is not a very common thing, unfortunately. So the thing I don't like about the changes is I think there's too many of them, which is something that Blizzard has done in the past with Mercy. As you see, they did a lot of changes to her with her Resurrect and with the big rework, and that ended up being very overpowered because she had like instant reses on like a 30-second cooldown, which is kind of huge for each fight because it's basically turning her ultimate into an ability, and that was just too strong, but that's a whole other thing. The other thing with even Junkrat, like they added a extra mine to Junkrat, and that actually increases his ult charge like rate and his damage output by a lot because the mine is his strongest ability. So Oh, and his mobility. So just one change like that can change a hero. And also they left like Junkrat to be very strong, probably overpowered for, I think, far too long, and it ended up being nerfed a little bit. But even then, we had to deal with a long time where the character was really strong, and I think that that's something that might happen with Sombra here if all of these changes goes live. But I also could be wrong. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm kind of looking at these all just from like on paper. We don't really know. I guess it's like a theoretical standpoint. So the thing with Sombra is I'm worried about them increasing the speed of hack and increasing the amount of things hack disables, and basically making her one of the best 1v1ers in the game, which is a funny thing because basically Tracer, I would say, I think most people would agree, Tracer's one of the best duelers in the game because she has the kit, the movement abilities, and recall to like outmaneuver her enemy. So like if you're just like 1v1ing a soldier or something, if you know how to fight a soldier as Tracer and you're okay at aiming, you can definitely probably kill the soldier by yourself. It's not ideal, but it's something you can do, and that's not very... Basically, because that's capable from like a Tracer, you see a lot of Tracers doing it, and it can be hard for the overall teamwork of a given game because Tracers will go out and like try to do their own thing, and if they can't, they die and kind of feed. Sombra should be even a safer way to do that because she can decloak behind an enemy if she gets her hack off, which, by the way, if it's even faster to cast, the only way to break hack is by stuns or damage, and it's not too hard to break hacks if Sombras aren't very smart about it. But if the Sombra starts hacking you on like from a fair amount of distance, like max distance away or just like high ground, it's going to be really hard to actually get damage on her or something to stop her from hacking. So I think it'll be actually really easy to just decloak, I'm saying it on the PTR, to decloak behind somebody, hack them, which does a lot more disabling than before. And if with a good enough aim, especially since the 10% increase or decrease in her spread, you should be able to just kill the thing that you're on. That is scary because a lot of people don't really peel in Overwatch, and even if they do, it's hard to stop somebody from just like completely destroying at least some like one healer, especially if they're good enough and if they're like disabled. Like imagine like you could peel for your Mercy, but she can't fly away while you're dealing with the Sombra on the ground like as D.Va or something. She'll be unable to do anything. So the most you could do, I guess, would be like Matrix or something, but some tanks can't even do that. So obviously D.Va is like the best case scenario because she's the best peeler, but it's just one of those things that I think could be too strong given the combination of the hack speed, the amount of things it hacks now or disables, and the lower weapon damage, or sorry, the lower weapon spread, because I think that will just make her way too strong. I think one or the other would actually be a better idea. I think her spread sort of makes sense because she doesn't have, like, she's not able to just sort of kill everyone because her ultimate is theoretically really strong, and her ability to hack can be just as good as, like, you know, killing them. Like, you can disable a lot of their abilities. Think about like a Roadhog. Like if you hack him before he's like hooked or healed, he's kind of just like a walking ult sponge for a little bit. So even though people might not act on it, I think like the theoretical impact of a hack and just like the baseline impact of a hack without anybody actually killing the Roadhog that he hacked is important enough that her spread can be fine the way it is because she doesn't need to actually kill the thing. But if you combine that with the hack speed and all the things that it hacks, I think that makes her way too strong, especially in a game that is not really about doing a bunch of 1v1s. It's more about teamwork. I think that it's making her closer to Soldier in a lot of ways, and I understand that there's a want to, and they even said this, that they want to take the awkwardness out of her ult gain and take the power out of the ult, but I think that when you turn your character into more of a soldier, not only is it a little bit more boring because Sombra's been kind of interesting, a kind of a unique style of gameplay that isn't just about shooting, which is nice in a game that is supposed to be not just about shooting and about the hero abilities and stuff, but also it kind of, I don't know, makes like maybe her playstyle a little bit more boring, and also could just make her way stronger than the characters we already have, especially because like the character by design has always been like really like on the brink of being overpowered because her abilities are basically disabling like your buttons, like they're taking your keyboard or gamepad basically away from you, and that's scary. People don't like that. People don't like that already with res, like having your kill undone. That's something that's like a disempowerment thing that people don't enjoy. So it's a thing that I think people won't like if she's able to be that influential in a fight. The one thing too, I feel like I do definitely agree with the change, or like the philosophy of making her more of a character that is in fights, because one of the big problems, at least in my games, is a lot of Sombras will like kind of baby their health packs, and they'll get their ult charge, but they'll like leave a fight a lot of the time, and it will leave us like sort of 5v6, right? Because we need somebody to actually, yes, Sombra does get ult charge from health packs and stuff, and her ult's really good, but we also need her to like shoot people. So like a lot of Sombras won't do that, and so it's really hard to deal with when, like, I understand she's trying to get her ult, and kind of that's, other than using your ult, you know, like you're usually just trying to gain your ult in this game from like a high level perspective, I guess. So it makes sense, but it also is really annoying because you kind of need that character around. So the changes away from health pack giving ult charge will definitely make her more engaged in fights, but I think there's smaller tweaks they could have done, like maybe a smaller amount of ult charge from the health pack, or maybe just none at all, but then maybe just leave the hack the same, or like decrease the weapon spread, increase the hack speed, reduce the length of the time that hack like lasts. I actually don't know. I actually can look up on the wiki here. How long does hack actually last? It lasts 6 seconds. So it seems small, but that's quite a long time, especially with the abilities that it reduces now. Because now, when you think about Sombra, and this is one nice thing about some of the changes too, theoretically, is if there is like a farm mercy, Sombra has kind of a little bit more of a unique way of taking them out. If you can aim, you can translocate up into the air, hack probably the mercy, and then she has no way of doing anything other than healing. So on the way down, you could kind of kill the mercy as she can't even float down; she'll plummet down. So there is some kind of interesting ways you could use Sombra, but I still think that making her a lot closer to just a normal DPS hero is a little too far. I think it's okay that the character still has some niche uses and still needs a lot of like teamwork compared to the other ones. But maybe instead of just completely changing her into a character that has a lot more lethality, make her a little less team dependent, but not this far. But it's very common for Blizzard, as I've said, to kind of get rid of a character's identity really quickly by doing a lot of changes and completely changing how they play. So it's weird because they say like, oh, the mercy thing is like a rework, and that is a rework, and that makes sense. But if like the Sombra one is almost a rework in terms of just completely how her playstyle works. So ultimately, I think this is kind of scary, especially since because Sombra is like has the ability to heal herself in a way if she wants to. I think getting rid of the health pack healing doesn't necessarily mean you won't ever like be on a health pack. I think at higher levels of play, between fights, if you can fit it in, you would probably still go and get poke for free, basically, because you still want to get your ult charge. But I think you're going to see a lot more Sombras sort of behind the shields up front and stuff like that, which is nice, but you could do that before, but it was just harder. And I think just making that easier and not just changing it would have been the better tweak. But who knows? It is PTR. None of it could go live, but I mean, come on. Like, usually PTR stuff doesn't really get tweaked that much, so I'm pretty sure this is the Sombra we're going to be getting, and it could potentially be like a really, really strong hero, and which is cool because I love Sombra, but I am worried a little bit about the sort of health of the game with a character this strong.